Thank you, Susan. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share our slides now. Let me just get those up and we will get started. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us today. We're very excited to be here and very happy to be here presenting this information about our experiences at the New York Public Library and college readiness. So go ahead, Leanne.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Leanne. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a young adult librarian at the New York Public Library at a branch in the East Village of Manhattan, as well as a college and career pathways hub librarian.
And I am Katrina Ortega, also she, her, a young adult librarian and manager of the College and Career Pathways program at the New York Public Library. Welcome to College and Career Pathways at NYPL, filling the college access gap in an urban setting. So here's a snapshot of what we will be covering in this presentation, just to give you an idea of the themes that we will be touching on. We're going to touch on an intro to NYPL and College and Career Pathways, why and how College and Career Pathways began, how College and Career Pathways works in branches, what we've learned so far, what we are planning moving forward, and what you can do, some maybe tips and tricks that you can take away. And then we'll have ample time for questions after our presentation.
All right, so before we jump in, I'd like to provide a general overview of how the New York Public Library is organized and how College and Career Pathways, which we will now call CCP, fits into that organization. So the New York Public Library, which we call NYPL, is made up of 92 locations across 3 boroughs, which includes branches and research libraries, such as the beautiful building we all love near Bryant Park with the Lions. NYPL, as you could probably assume, receives a lot of visitors per year, over 17 million on average, actually. These visitors explore our vast resources, digital collections, and attend our thousands of programs per year. Many of these programs are hosted by NYPL's Young Adult Department, helping to guide teens find their place in the world. Like other libraries, NYPL has always offered programs such as SAT prep, college readiness events, and resume help, but with 92 locations and little collaboration between our dozens of branch locations, you can see how it would be very overwhelming for both NYPL staff and for teens. So this is where CCP comes in. Coming off the heels of smaller centralized efforts such as Bridge Up and other partners, CCP is a large, centrally funded and organized effort that brings 10 branches called hub branches together to offer programming, one-on-one counseling sessions, and an intensive scholarship program called ICANN. Having just completed our 2nd year of the CCP program, we have learned a lot that we would love to share with you all today.
Oh, sorry about that. Took me a minute to unmute. Okay, so now before we continue delving into the CCP program itself, we want to give a bit of background about the need for this program at NYPL and the necessity of providing resources like those that CCP has to offer in a free, publicly accessible way across the country. Talking about the necessity of a program like CCP requires a bit of a descent into the general need for college and career readiness, counseling, and support for students everywhere. In the last decade or so, a lot of attention has been paid to the ratios between college counselors and students at high schools across the country. The discrepancy between the number of counselors available and the number of students those counselors serve has translated into many high school students being unprepared for a plethora of things that require a lot of time and dedicated thought. Things like the college application process, preparing for entry into the workforce, and gaining and developing the necessary skills to make very important decisions about the trajectory of their lives and end up being seriously affected by the lack of mentorship and instruction for many students, particularly if those students are potential first-generation college students and/or from households without the financial resources to obtain additional counseling from private consultants. So the statistics that we're providing here were obtained from the National Association of College and Admissions Counselors, or NACAC, many of you may know, and the American School Counselor Association, which you may also know. And they outline the dire situation that many counselors and high school students find themselves in. During the 2019-2020 school year, the average national counselor to student ratio was 1 to 424, which is outrageous. The recommended ratio is 1 to 250, which is still a really high number when you consider all of the work that goes into preparing an individual student for post-secondary success. even in a school system like New York City's Department of Education, where the ratio during that year was a bit under the national recommendation at 1 to 215, the idea that one person is fully able to assist 200 plus students with everything that they might need on an individualized level is still pretty unreasonable. Additionally, based on student interactions and conversations that we have had with administrative faculty at the Department of Education, it was made clear that schools and students really need the extra assistance from outside organizations if we want to build a culture of post-secondary readiness and success. But then the pandemic happened. Now, to drive home everything that I've just said, all we need to do is take a look at how drastically things have changed since the beginning of the pandemic. SUNY saw a 20% drop in the 2020-2021 completed application submissions. There's a drop in overall New York State college and university applicants that includes also private universities of 4%, which totals 43,000 applicants. But SUNY community colleges saw a 10% drop in applications, which equals more than 19,000 students. And that, I think, was the most drastic reduction in applicants. CUNY enrollment dropped by over 3%, which might not sound like a huge percentage, but in reality, that translates to more than 10,000 matriculating students for the 2020 and 2021 school year. The drop in applications across the country has largely impacted lower income students more than others. Despite an increase in applications submitted to top tier schools, many smaller or state schools saw drops just across the board. And when it comes to the Common App, which is the most widely used application nationally, the numbers of first generation applicants and fee waiver recipients declined by 3 and 2 percentage points respectively. And so if we're talking about that on a national scale, you can imagine, even though it's just a small percentage, the actual numbers that translates into. Low-income students will need the most assistance in climbing out of this hole. Enrollment was down 9.5% for the 2020-2021 school year, which is the largest one-year drop recorded by the National Student Clearinghouse. At this point, students from low-income high schools are 2.3 times less likely to enroll in college than their counterparts from high-income schools. Experts were hopeful that this would be limited to the fall 2020 semester, but it was not. It also reflects in the spring 2021 application numbers and is likely to continue for at least the next semester, this upcoming fall 2021 semester. So we can see the pandemic has had a huge impact on college readiness because it's shown two things. Unfortunately, one, degrees are largely necessary in many different professional sectors to help ensure job security and higher income. And two, many students are currently feeling like college is not an option for them right now. So to reiterate, it is clear that schools and students really need extra assistance from outside organizations if we want to build a culture of post-secondary readiness and success. So now that we've got a good amount of foundational knowledge about why a program like CCP is necessary for students around the country, let's take a look at how a program like CCP was devised. This is a picture of Helen Gurley Brown. She was a pioneer in the publishing world. She served as editor-in-chief for Cosmopolitan magazine for more than 30 years. She was a well-known feminist and activist and a big proponent for access to education. NYPL and the Helen Gurley Brown Foundation wanted to bridge the gap between high school students and college and career access in a public library setting where any NYC student could gain access to post-secondary readiness resources and programs. Just as a point, we want to make this clear, without the funding that we've received from the Helen Gurley Brown Foundation, the current iteration of CCP would not be possible. However, substantial funding is not the be all and end all for establishing and maintaining a program like this, and we will get into some details about that at a later time. The HGB Foundation gave the library a considerable sum to establish a program that would build out an intensive, focused approach to college readiness, which would allow students to commit to and enroll in a multi-year program that would help set them up for success in early adolescence. With the money given to the library by HGB, the Bridge Up program was established. This was early 2010s, maybe 2013, 2014. Bridge Up was a multi-year program that students would enter as 8th graders and would continue on with until they completed high school. Along the way, the program would support these students academically through high school and provide additional resources for them as they prepared for entry into college, such as college readiness workshops, essay boot camps, and campus visits. The Bridge Up program, including its resources, was only open to students who were enrolled in the program itself, which doesn't really meld well with the purpose of public libraries and the overall message that we received from Helen Gurley Brown. So to address this, College Access at NYPL was born. This was a non-funded program that was driven by a group of dedicated YA librarians in neighborhood branches who wanted to provide college readiness programming and resources to the public at large. College access programs were usually built out of funds that the branches could provide to the YA librarians, or it was totally cost-free. So there were no, since there was no funding for college access librarians tried to operate without needing any funds. Together, Bridge Up and College Access were meant to address the post-secondary readiness needs of any teens that walked through any of our branch doors. Unfortunately, the Bridge Up College Access model didn't work as effectively as planned. Retention for the Bridge Up program was poor. We're talking about students who were entering the program in 8th grade and were expected to stay enrolled in the program until they graduated from high school. So that was a pretty long time. There was very little collaboration between staff from the two programs, which translated into a lot of wasted opportunities to bridge gaps for students. And it was very difficult to build a program that wanted to address issues that were seen on a system-wide basis, that YA librarians were seeing in every single one of our branches without any reliable budget. So the library decided to propose an overhaul and program restructure that would pull together the best components of both of the programs, which became college and career pathways. CCP programs would be branch-based programs facilitated by the YA librarians themselves, who were in tune with the needs and wants of their teen communities. But CCP also includes an enrollment-based program component that can support students over the course of 3 years to help them develop the skills and mindset and information needed to be ready for their post-secondary pathway. Now let me get into CCP as a program. The program is housed under the library's YA Education Department alongside the library's other YA education programs. There are 2 units that make up CCP. There's the central CCP admin staff and the CCP Hub branch staff who work in the branches with the public directly. The central CCP staff is a team of 2, myself, the program manager, and a program coordinator who assists with program operations and curriculum development. We work with the 10 hub branches to facilitate CCP programming for the teams that the 10 branches serve. These hub branches were specifically chosen for their locations in areas of the library system that have schools with very high counselors to student ratios, so there are not many counselors available, if any at all. They are near a number of Title I schools, so schools that definitely need extra support, or they're located in lower income neighborhoods. To support these 10 branches, we provide each branch with funding for CCP programs and initiatives. We establish and offer professional development opportunities to further branch staff's knowledge of CCP content, including a 4-day training series based on New York City's Options Institute's training series for the Department of Education high school counselors, which is a training series that delves very deeply into the college application and financial aid process. We also assist with curriculum development and support in the branches, including assisting with program facilitation physically in the branch when necessary. We work with other library departments to provide materials to the 10 branches, particularly with our collection development and purchasing departments. We coordinate partnerships with outside organizations to bolster and assist with programs within the 10 branches. And we organize and facilitate system-wide events like the CCP Career Panels, which is a virtual career panel series, which drew hundreds of participants, or NYPL's annual college fair, which the last time it was held drew over 1,700 teens, parents, and educators. Due to the pandemic, much of our larger programming has been drastically modified, or in the case of the college fair, canceled completely.
Now we will get into how CCP is executed in the branches. As Katrina mentioned, and as I'm sure is the case with all of your libraries, NYPL and the CCP program specifically had to make a significant shift due to the pandemic. Since the pandemic began during the first year we offered CCP, we had to shift suddenly to a virtual program. While we were in survival mode for the last few months of the first year of the program, we came back in August for the 2020 to 2021 program with a fresh, fully virtual program. However, this will influence how we discuss CCP during our presentation today, as we have some pre-pandemic findings and some post-pandemic findings. Of course, the pandemic is unfortunately far from over, but we hope this makes sense for convenience sake. So let's take a step back and fully explain how CCP works in the branches, which we call hubs. To summarize CCP a little bit more, it is a program that is administered both by central staff and hub staff. As one of the hub librarians, I am involved in developing programs for students, hosting one-on-one sessions, and guiding the students who are involved in the ICANN program at my hub. Let's take a look at each of these components of CCP separately. Prior to the pandemic, CCP was set up as an entirely in-person program. We would host a program weekly at each hub on a variety of topics, and teens would travel to the hubs to attend. We had programs on beginning the college surge, understanding financial aid award letters, adulting 101 classes that went over things like bank accounts, time management skills, and so much more. We also hosted college fairs, career fairs, and had guest speakers. One of my favorite programs at my hub was a nonprofit fair, where 6 local nonprofits came, tabled, and spoke to teens about their missions and jobs. Another program pictured here is when Councilwoman Carlina Rivera came to speak to teens about what she does and her path to politics. These programs had great attendance numbers, and this was at just one of our 10 hubs. Then, when the pandemic first began, we still wanted to offer the variety and frequency of programs we were hosting at the hubs. We started to record webinars because NYPL was unsure about online programming, and these were great because it was pre-recorded content that students could watch in the meantime, but also live on our website for future students. Then, once we were able to, we started doing live programs on Google Meet. Hub staff came together to offer dozens of programs per month on pretty much every topic related to college and career readiness that we could think of. We ended up having some of the highest attended programs for teens at NYPL. And then this past May, the hubs collaborated to put on college and career panels. We had a college life panel where student representatives from 6 different colleges came to talk to the teens in attendance. We also hosted 6 career panels with experts from industries such as legal, fashion, education, business, healthcare, and IT. Our partnerships with various organizations helped these panels come to life. Going virtually honestly allowed us to offer a wider range and higher number of programs for CCP. Each hub also offers 3 hours of one-on-one sessions per week. We answer any and all questions a student may have to the best of our abilities, whether it be looking over their college essay, providing advice about life on campus, or helping them reword that one phrase in their resume. One-on-one sessions are particularly important to CCP, as it truly allows hub librarians to fill in the gap of a guidance counselor, even just a little bit. Thankfully, there was not a huge shift with one-on-one sessions for students. As the world went virtual, so did these sessions, and it was a relatively smooth transition. However, the biggest change is that these one-on-one sessions were able to reach more students. Now that it was virtual, students from all over NYC could request an appointment through our website. As mentioned, the Helly Gurley Brown Foundation wanted a closed enrollment-based program for NYC teens. This way, the teens could be incentivized to take a rigorous, intensive pathway towards college admissions and career exploration. This helped us develop the fabulous program ICANN, which stands for Intensive College and Career Access Network. ICANN exists at all 10 CCP hubs, and each hub enrolls about 3 students, though this may change as we expand the program. Each student must complete certain attendance requirements by attending 30 CCP programs, as well as complete a portfolio. The portfolio includes a college list, college admissions essay, resume, brag sheet, matriculation plans or goals, and other similar materials. During this past ICANN year, we had over 30 students enrolled in the program, and most of those students completed their requirements. Right now, we are working with students who did complete the program on their Magic Grants. A Magic Grant is a $1,000 to $1,500 grant to buy supplies to further their post-secondary goals, such as laptops, coding camps, cameras, and so much more. Last year, one of my students was able to purchase a gaming laptop, where he was also able to download software like Unity to teach himself how to develop games. We are also currently exploring the ability to put the money towards tuition. This is just a brief overview of ICANN. Honestly, ICANN could be a completely separate presentation, but overall, ICANN encourages students to dedicate more time to their post-secondary prep and achieve their goals. While I've been sharing the benefits of our virtual program throughout the last few slides, I wanted to summarize just how much we were able to accomplish by talking about the benefits for staff and students. For staff, we were able to come together and collaborate in new ways. The first way we were able to collaborate was simply by increased communication. Because there are so many locations spread over a large geographic area, we don't typically have the opportunity to work with one another. It was great to sit down with one another virtually and discuss how we can create a great program for our students. The second way we were able to collaborate was by taking turns recording webinars, creating worksheets, compiling virtual tours, and most of all, offering a larger number of programs on many different topics. A major plus of this was that when offering programs, Hub librarians could focus more on what they feel they are knowledge about, and it could even lighten their load. For example, some librarians are very strong in talking about financial aid, whereas others were stronger in helping teams with college essays. A third way we collaborated was on a schedule for our virtual one-on-one sessions, so that there was always someone for a student to discuss their questions with. And lastly, we also worked together to promote each other's events on social media, a freshly made CCP website, and word of mouth. Overall, this collaboration showed a boost in attendance numbers and therefore the amount of students we were able to help during a very uncertain time. And we definitely recommend bringing together all staff that would work on any college and career-related projects to coordinate with one another. There were also many benefits for students. They now had access to a variety of programs they may not have had physical access to before, whether that was because of their busy school schedule, they were far from the branch, or had an after-school program or job to attend. Now being virtual, students could hop from one branch to another branch's program, or find an event that worked with their busy schedules. They could also attend a one-on-one counseling session whenever they had a question. Overall, while a lot of hardships and uncertainties occurred because of COVID in terms of the CCP program, we have seen higher attendance rates, a larger variety of topics covered, and stronger collaboration between staff. We are now trying to see if CCP can remain virtual or hybrid.
As Leanne mentioned, CCP was in the midst of its debut year when the pandemic struck. As such, it's hard to determine what our outcomes really look like when not dealing with pandemic procedures. However, we did learn some things during those first several months that we are confident will help us improve the program as we begin to increase our in-branch offerings. These things include thoroughly preparing staff for the program. So giving staff the information necessary to actually help students through the college application process was so critical, but we've got a long way to go. The application process can be a very long and tedious one. And in order to effectively guide students through it, staff need to be confident of their own knowledge about it. In addition to the training series that we've provided at the program's kickoff, we've also provided staff with additional professional development opportunities offered through other organizations and partners, as well as updated curricula and resources. As I mentioned, we still have a long way to go with this. Lots of procedures have changed with the pandemic, and I foresee them continuing to change in the coming years. So we will try our best to keep our staff as updated as possible because this is a really, really critical point. We've also learned that even if schools in your community are fully staffed and the student to counselor ratio meets the recommended national average, schools still need the assistance and support. Speaking with school administration and faculty can give you a better idea of how specifically the knowledge and information that you possess can fit into their curriculum. So outreach and regular communication with schools around you is crucial. Allowing for flexibility was a particularly important point as we kicked off the program. Even before the pandemic struck, we needed to remember that teens are teens and can occasionally be fickle and unreliable and unpredictable. But it was critical that instead of chastising them, we tried to hear and understand where they were at to keep them involved with the program and moving forward. And flexibility. Flexibility is also continually assisting us in modifying the program when we recognize that our model is becoming too unreasonable for students. Our main goal is to help keep students invested in preparing themselves for the many possibilities that they have after high school. And for us, that means really meeting teens where they are at. So throughout this past year, we've also learned many things that have helped us to improve our program. Though I already mentioned this point, it is very worth reiterating, especially now as students prepare to transition again away from virtual learning. Meeting them where they are and being patient and flexible is so critical to keeping teens involved. Oftentimes, they really just need to know that someone is there who will regularly check in on them and talk to them about their plans without being pushy or aggressive. Flexibility also spills over into what staff are capable of doing at any given time. It was imperative that we take into consideration staff's bandwidth over the past year and not demand that they stick to frivolous goals and outcomes that were created before the pandemic just because they existed. Again, our goal is to encourage teens to stick with the program. And in order to do that, we need our branch staff. If our branch staff are feeling burnt out or dissatisfied with the program, it's going to affect our ability to keep working with the teens. So it's very important to listen to staff concerns and to try to work with them towards a model that recognizes everyone's needs. This also required that we be assertive with stakeholders within the library and without. So managing up was a big part of this. As the needs of our teens and the staff who directly support them in the branches changed, we had to argue for some of the modifications that we made on their behalf and explain to our senior management and funders that our priority is our teens and our staff's welfare. Using data to back up our proposals was certainly mandatory, but it wasn't difficult to find over the course of the past year. Adjusting expectations and being honest and supportive of staff on the front lines meant that we were able to come through the school year in as good a shape as possible. We have some additional modifications in mind for next year based on some of the things that we've learned this year. First, we'd like to expand our ICANN program to accommodate 9 students at each branch rather than 3. There will be 3 per grade level between 10th and 12th grade. We've gotten great feedback about the program over the past couple of years from our first 2 cohorts and want to continue helping as many teens as possible coming out of this time of crisis. We've heard from both students and staff that incorporating virtual programs into our program model in the future would be incredibly beneficial. Leanne mentioned a number of ways that virtual programming has benefited both staff and students. And we certainly do not want to withhold that access in the future. Also, this allows, like Leanne mentioned, for more flexibility for the staff in how they present and facilitate the programs. Lastly, this coming year, we will begin focusing as heavily on career readiness programming as we've done with college readiness in the past. This includes a branch training series to help educate staff on different areas and levels of career readiness and developing program curricula for staff to incorporate at their branches. For the near future, we are planning on continuing to expand the program into an additional 20 branches, growing both the ICANN program and access to the program for the public. Plus, we are exploring ways of tracking teens' progress after high school to ensure that we're providing services and resources that really address issues that arise in their post-secondary lives. So this will probably look like continued post-secondary support as teens move from teenagers to emerging adults to adults once they leave high school.
So what can you do? We'd like to offer some suggestions on what you can do at your public library system or organization to establish a program similar to CCP. These suggestions can be done whether or not you have central staff to focus on it and whether or not you have funding in place for such a program. First, staff can create college corners in young adult areas of the branch. Creating an eye-catching but educational corner that teens can easily find is a great way to get them to begin thinking about college and careers. All you need to do is take some shelf space, place all of your college and career related books and materials there, and decorate it with some college decor, such as flags, pennants, pictures, or signs. You can also create your own college-focused programs. These can either be big programs, such as college fairs or workshops, or small and self-guided programs. One program we had was setting books and laptops at a table and having students fill out worksheets based on the information they were learning. For example, on the left, we have a major list worksheet that students can fill out to learn about what a major is and how their interests may tie into their future major. And then on the right, we have a worksheet where students can write down the typical requirements for their preferred schools. This way, it was less pressured, but we were there for any questions they may have. These simple yet effective programs can go a long way in helping students start to think about the future. And if you want to do a bigger program, such as a college fair or panel, we suggest not being afraid to reach out to local businesses, organizations, or colleges asking for their help. In our experience, many of them are happy to come speak to your teens.
I'm sorry, one second, Leanne, I accidentally skipped the slide. Let me go back 1 minute. Okay, we're back.
Right.
Sorry about that.
It's all good. So next we have webinars. While webinars can be a ton of work, they are great ways to create content for your teens and for your library in general. Whether they live on your library's website or a private Google Drive folder, webinars are great tools in presenting information to students. We have webinars that run anywhere from 5 minutes to 20 minutes, and we've even created worksheets to go along with the webinars so that students can consider what they've learned. You can do a webinar on certain college search process, adulting 101 topics such as time management or money management, or how to navigate scholarships.
It's also incredibly helpful to leverage the partnerships that you have with community organizations and institutions in your community. Organizations like college prep orgs, essay writing professionals, career development coaches, even admissions and financial aid officers from local schools, or other reps from local colleges and universities are often so excited to talk to students and to share their knowledge, they're likely to provide their services to libraries for free. This allows you to seek out expertise on college and career readiness among colleagues outside of your library system, build mutually beneficial partnerships with them, all while supporting and being supported in providing these critical services to your community. Here you see one of our partners from the City University of New York talking to students about the admissions process in the CUNY app at one of our hub branches. Working with community partners can also be done virtually. Over the course of the past year, we presented a number of different virtual workshops that feature community partners, where they share information about their organizations, about the services that they provide, and ways in which they can help our patrons develop their post-secondary plans. And again, they've all been willing to do all of this for free for us. So make sure to leverage your partnerships with community organizations. The great thing about providing programs like these is that they become accessible to anyone who would like to join regardless of the location. Additionally, we were able to record many of these sessions because of their virtual nature and post them onto our website so that they are accessible to anyone who would like to watch them even after the event. The examples listed here are instances where community partners gave incredibly useful information that we were not as well equipped to share. So it really benefits both our patrons and our staff to search out resources and partnerships like these. Plus, They are all examples of things that can be done. All of these are examples of things that can be done in a library system with little to no funding for programming like this.
So to help you achieve your goals, we have linked the CCP website on this slide, as well as our email addresses. So please feel free to take a look at any of our webinars or even share them with your students, our upcoming programs, or contact us with any questions you may have. I saw in the chat and in the Q&A that you were wondering if we would be willing to share our worksheets with you, and we are absolutely willing to do that. We don't have them prepared today, but if you shoot us an email, we can definitely share like a Google Drive folder with all of our worksheets, or they actually live with a lot of our webinars on our website if you find any that you like there.
Okay, so I can if you send a link to the website, I can put that up with the slides once the symposium's over, and we put everyone's slides up there. So that would be great.
Awesome, will do. And last but not least, here's our bibliography, just a few sources that were used early in the presentation. And thank you all for waiting for us to answer your questions until now. Katrina and I will go through your questions and try to answer them.
I'm having a bit of trouble opening the Q&A.
Okay, I can open it. I can read it to you if that helps. It says, did you get, except for I think there's a typo here and I'm not sure I understand this question. Did you get?
I think they mean pennants.
Oh, okay, pennants.
Yeah, like the college flags, yeah.
Okay, pennants from the colleges for free, or did you have to purchase them?
We got maybe a handful of pennants for free. If you've ever tried to get pennants from schools, you may have faced charges for them. Most of them we had to pay for, and so a number of branches were able to put aside a small amount of branch funds to get pennants. But for the most part, yeah, you have to pay for them if they're actually coming from the school. One workaround is to make pennants yourselves, or to make that a program. Just have students make pennants for the schools that they're interested in attending. And that, just requires some arts and crafts supplies.
Okay, can you open them now, Katrina? I made you a co-host, so are you able to open the Q&As?
No, I'm not really sure what is going on. I'm clicking on it, but it's not opening.
Okay.
It might pop up behind Zoom.
Oh,
so it's like
maybe.
A pop-up window. But I can also read the questions. Someone asked, did you get a chance to get tours of local colleges planned for your students?
So because of the liabilities that come along with taking students on field trips, we have not been able to do that as of yet. We have definitely encouraged virtual tours, and there are a number of different websites that staff can use to conduct virtual tours, plus a number of admissions counselors that we've spoken to have been willing to set up a virtual tour specifically for our group. But as far as physically going to a campus, at this point, we're trying to figure out how that could potentially happen in the future. It just hasn't happened yet. It did happen during the Bridge Up years, and that was just because the group that the Bridge Up program was working was a much more closed group, and they had a number of different permissions and liability forms, liability waivers signed with the intention that they were going to go on these sorts of campus visits. But we have not yet done that.
So I can answer this next one. Do you find this project also helpful for older people returning to school or who may have never gone to college? I definitely think the answer is yes, for sure. We definitely, advertise, so to speak, towards teens with our outreach and through the branches because we are young adult staff. However, when we were doing programs in person, I did have older people coming to the programs to find out the information. Especially, I ran a beginning the college search program, writing the college essay. During both of those, I had a mix of ages in there. And so I think the answer is yes. And maybe in the future, we can start promoting it towards different groups.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of what Leanne said, that is definitely something that we've seen across the board in all of our branches, and not only with college readiness, although there are a number of instances in which adults have participated in the programs that we've had about college searches, but we also provide, some resume help for adults. We also provide essay writing help for adults, job searching assistance, that sort of thing. And there is interest in programs like these across the board for both teens and adults.
I don't know if you want to get this next one, Katrina, about assessment, because I know you received the survey.
I'm sorry, I can't open the Q&A.
That's okay. It says, sorry if I missed the assessment piece. How many students participated? What feedback have you gotten from students who participated?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So our current program model allows for 30 ICANN students, so 30 enrolled students. The program itself, and this is a crucial distinction between the program as it exists now and what it existed as before, when it was kind of the Bridge Up and College Access model separately operating, but supposed to be the same. So right now, as it is, College and Career Pathways is open to anybody who wants to join. So all of our programs are accessible to all members of the public, whether they're teens, adults, parents, educators. Anybody who wants to join any of our programs can do so. The only difference between our enrollment-based students and other students walking into the branch or walking the program from the street is that the enrollment is that the enrolled students are enrolled. So they filled out some forms saying that they want to enroll in this program, and they commit to completing a certain number of programs over the course of the school year. But otherwise, everything's open to all members of the public. We have gotten very, very positive feedback about our enrollment-based program, the ICANN program. A number of students who have completed all of the requirements have said that, this is the first time that they've been exposed to information like this. They've gotten so much out of the programs that they could now turn around and explain a lot of the content to other people. They are, excited about joining in subsequent years. They very much loved working with their hub librarians who, if it weren't for the hub librarians, they would never have gotten this information. So we've gotten a lot of really, really positive feedback. A couple of critiques that we can share is that sometimes, I guess if students don't really know what they want to do after high school and their post-secondary life, they're not sure if they want to go to college, that they feel like a little more direction is needed. So that might be something that we can work on with our staff in general, is figuring out, what do we do with students who don't have any idea about what they want to do, except, for let them explore all of their different options. But yeah, that's some of the feedback that we've gotten. We've gotten some really positive feedback, and that is one of the big reasons that we're excited about expanding the program.
All right, so I think I could take this next one. It says, do you find teens using the career books? In my high school library, we have stopped purchasing them because they were not used, even when shelved in the college and career section. So I'd say yes and no. I've definitely seen teens, they're browsing the section, they take a book because they think it'll help, and it will, hopefully. But I have found that a lot of people reach out to me asking for resources preferably that they could read online. So I've actually created a little Google Drive folder with reputable links such as finding your future career, what college is best for me, those types of things. And in those lists, I have put books that we have in our collection so that they know the specific titles that may help for what they want. I think it's all about needing a little push and a little guidance towards the right materials, or else their eyes are just gonna go right over it, something a little more fun. So again, the answer is yes and no, but I will say that our college and career section probably circulates a little less than our manga section.
One point about that, and one of the ways that I think some staff have been able to, if not actually get these books circulating, then at least picked up off of the shelf, is to incorporate them into programs, like using them as tools for completing worksheets. So rather than having students necessarily log on or Google information about different types of careers and what sorts of degrees one might need for a different type of careers, to pull out one of those books and say, like, here's a big book on careers, look up some careers and tell me what sorts of degrees you might need, what sort of education, post-secondary education you might need for to get a job in this profession.
Right. I actually did a program exactly like that. I just set out a bunch of books on a table, had a worksheet, and I went through each question with them. And they just, flipped through the book and ended up writing down a few careers that sound interesting based on their interests or what they think they might be interested in. So I definitely think incorporating them into programs is an excellent suggestion.
I actually have a question about your flip from in-person to remote during COVID. I know you said you could reach a lot more people, but the one thing I'm wondering, I know CUNY said they discovered that about half of their students don't have internet access at home. And I know in my city, in our K-12, about 40% didn't have internet access. So I didn't know how you dealt with that, or if if it was a different group of people in the remote versus the in-person.
Yeah, so that was a big hurdle to come over at the beginning of the pandemic. I think that at that time, unfortunately, we had to, we were at the tail end of our debut year, and a number of our students, the students who had been regularly attending our programs, or the students who were enrolled in the ICANN program, were depending on programs to continuing so that they could finish their requirements, or they could prepare for, graduation and matriculation. And so we definitely recognized that there was a need to continue offering these types of programs. We had very little control over whether we could help students who didn't have access to Wi-Fi or to the appropriate technology. And very thankfully, the DOE really helped us out with this. So the DOE was able to provide any students who applied for technology or access to a network with the appropriate technology and hardware. And even if it wasn't, top tier stuff, at least that would give them access to the programs that they needed to finish either the requirements for the ICANN program or just, whatever they needed for matriculation into college, or, whatever they needed to do over the summer. So the library in the past has had a couple of different programs or iterations of programs where they've lent out hotspot devices. But as there was so much going on at the time, we were unfortunately unable to pull anything concrete together to provide hotspot devices for students. Although this, now recognizing the lack of access that so many students have is definitely something that we're exploring for the future. But Yeah, I think it was definitely something that we need to consider now and moving forward in the ways that we're providing programs. We want to make sure that we are continuing access to as many interested patrons as possible. So we recognize that continuing in a 100% virtual model is not realistic and is restricting access to a number of students because they won't be able to access things online. So we think that ideally we'd be able to move forward with some sort of hybrid model where we can both provide programming in person, where students or teens can go into the branches to participate, but also can access programs online.
Great, thank you. Yeah, of course, that's what, double the amount of work, right? That's always the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we'll have to navigate that, see what we can do.
Okay. Well, it looks like you all ably answered all the questions in the Q&A. So I invite people, thank you so much for a wonderful session. And I invite people to join us for our next session, which will begin at 2 o'clock. The next session is Data Zines. And again, you can access it. I see Rebecca just put a link to the program in the chat. You can access that through the program and also the rest of the programs today and tomorrow. So thank you so much for presenting for us today. And thanks to the rest of you for joining us, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.